a paragraph or a piece of text, and there's so many details that you don't know what's going on.
Uh-huh.
You have, that happens to me all the time. It can get so overwhelming. But what I do is I use a strategy called get the gist. Get the gist is another term for main idea, which allows us to figure out the main point that the author wants us to get across. Whenever we get the gist, we have to make something called a gist statement. In order for us to make a gist statement, we have to consider two very important things. We have to figure out the most important who or what in a paragraph, and then we also have to find the most important thing about the who or what in a paragraph. And when we make a gist statement, we want it to be as short as possible. So the rule is that you can only have as many words as you have fingers. So you have 10 fingers, so there can only be 10 words in a gist statement. Today we're going to be reading a story called A Chair for My Mother by Vera B. Williams. As we read the story, we're going to get the gist of the paragraphs in the text. It takes a long time to fill a jar this big. Every day when my mother comes home from work, I take down the jar. My mama empties all her change and from the tips of her purse for me to count. Then we push all the coins into the jar. Sometimes my mama is laughing when she comes home from work. Sometimes she's so tired and she falls asleep while I count the money into piles. Some days she has a lot of tips, some days she has only a little. Then she looks worried, but each and every single day, every shiny coin goes into the jar. Okay, so you can tell on this page that there are a lot of details that can get us sidetracked from what the author is trying to get across to us. So from that we have to get the gist. And for that, then you have to figure out the most important who or what in the story, or the most important who or what in this paragraph. And on this page, it happens to be the narrator's mother, because it talks about her the most. And the most important thing about the narrator's mother is that she puts all of the coins from her tips into the jar. So, using that information, we're going to make our gist statement, which will say, her mother puts her coins into the jar. See, that's 8 words. That's a perfect gist statement. When we can't get a single other coin into the jar, we are going to take out all of the money and go and buy a chair. Yes, a chair. A wonderful, beautiful, fat, soft armchair. We are going to get one covered in velvet with roses all over it. We are going to get the best chair in the whole world. Okay, so on this page, you see that we also have a lot of details about this chair. But it's a little bit misleading because the most important thing on this page, or the most important what on this page is actually the jar. So, and the most important thing about the jar is that when it's full, they're going to go buy the chair. So using that information, we're going to create the gist statement. When the jar is full, they will buy a chair. 10 words. Right outside our house stood 2 big fire engines. I could see lots of smoke. Tall orange flames came out of the roof. All the neighbors stood in a bunch across the street. Mama grabbed my hand and we ran. My Uncle Sandy saw us and ran to us. Mama yelled, "Where's Mother?" I yelled, "Where's my grandma?" My Aunt Ida waved and shouted, "She's here, she's here, she's okay, don't worry." Grandma was all right. Our cat was safe too, though it took a while to find her. But everything in our whole house was spoiled. Okay, so the most important what in this paragraph is the fire, because that's what's causing all this ruckus with the fire engines and the neighbors and all the family members running around trying to find each other and make sure they're okay. And the most important thing about the fire here is that it ruins all of their stuff in their apartment. So, with that gist statement, we're going to say, the fire ruins their belongings. 5 words. That's a really cool gist statement. Now that I've shown you how to make a gist statement, I want you to work with a partner to make your own. So I'm going to read this page. You're going to turn and talk to your neighbor and create a gist statement to share with the class. After supper, Mama and Grandma and I stood in front of the jar. Well, I never would have believed it. But I guess it's full, Mama said. My mother brought me home little paper wrappers for nickels and the dimes and the quarters. I counted them all out and wrapped them all up. On my Mother's Day off, we took all the coins to the bank. The bank exchanged them for $10 bills. Then we took the bus downtown to shop for our chair. Okay, now turn and talk with your neighbor and create a gist statement to share with the class. Today we learned a new reading strategy called Get the Gist. In order for us to get the gist, we make a gist statement which includes the most important who or what in a paragraph and the most important thing about the who or what in the paragraph. Whenever we make a gist statement, you have to remember that you can only have as many words as you have fingers. You have 10 fingers, so you can only have 10 words. Using Get the Gist is beneficial because it helps us sort out through all the details that can be presented in a text and helps us get down to the nitty-gritty to what the author really wants us to know. When we use Get the Gist, it helps us become better readers and therefore better students.